Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. I'm going to show you how to make two simple diagonal Z-fold cards from one A4 sheet. So basically this is the A4 sheet. I've trimmed off a bit at the end so that it is equally divisible by 3 by measuring 2.5 inches there and 2.5 inches there and making a mark. You put it in your trimmer and you cut between the two marks, and then you get two cards. So I'm going to show you how to decorate it on the second, but this is the first card, and on this panel I've stamped the greeting and put a different pattern on the opposite panel. And if you open it this way, you can sign and address the recipient. Stand it up like that to display it. It looked a bit odd without decorating that panel, so I decorated that as well with the same pattern as this panel. The designer series paper I used is from the Country Floral Lane DSP pack, and even though Valentine's Day is over, you can still use the paper for other projects. So these are the papers. The ones with the hearts on it, like this one, you can still use for an anniversary card. I thought this one looked like an Easter card, or this one, and that could be a spring or summer card. And that's the reverse. The stamp set I used is Celebrating You. I used the Easter greeting here and the rabbit from Playing in the Rain. There is a die to match, which is this one, but I actually fussy cut mine because I wanted to include the paddle, but I only used half the paddle to look as though he was standing on grass. The inks I'm using are Tuxedo Black and Balmy Blue. These are the blends I'm using, so there'll be Crumb Cake, Petal Pink, Balmy Blue, Mint Macaron, Daffodil Delight and Sweet Sorbet. You'll need a Stamparatus and a silicone mat because I'm going to do a mirror stamping technique. As you can see, the normal way this rabbit will appear will be this way. This rabbit faces the other way, and in order to do that I have to do some mirror stamping. Scraps of basic white cardstock. To cut the card base you need a Balmy Blue sheet of A4 size, and in Europe you want to cut that at 11 5/8 inches. That's 11.5, and it's just 2 notches after that. You're just only cutting a tiny bit off. Only that much. In metric that will be 21 centimeters by 28.5 centimeters, and for the US letter size it will be 8.5 by 10 7/8. Then you want to score at 3 7/8 and 7 3/4. In metric that will be 9.5 and 19 centimeters, and for the US letter size it will be 3 5/8 by 7 1/4. Then rotate the cardstock so the short side is at the top, and you want to make a mark at the 2.5 inch mark, which is here. Rotate the cardstock 180 degrees so that the opposite side is at the top, and align it at 2.5 inches on your trimmer and make a mark there. In metric that will be 6.5 centimeters, and then you rotate it 180 degrees and mark the opposite side at 6.5 centimeters. Then for the US letter size, you mark at 3 inches, rotate at 180 and mark the opposite end at 3 inches. I'm going to put my trimmers sideways, otherwise you won't be able to see. Now you want to put the 2 points on the cutting groove. Okay, make sure it's not beyond this point here, the grey bit, because the blade can't reach there. And then just cut up. The trouble with the trimmer is that you will get frayed edges here on the underside. So you want to get a bone folder and dampen that down, and do the same with this edge here. And that should give you a smooth finish. But if there are still little raggedy edges, you can use a scissors and just snip that off and tidy it up. Then you simply fold this first, the tallest panel, into valley fold, and this one with a shorter panel into a mountain fold, and there you've got your card. You can have it in opposite directions, so this one will open the other way, but if you want both the same way, then all you have to do is fold it. So that they'll both be facing the same way. In order to get the angle of the card right, it's easiest to cut it into a rectangle. So you measure the height of this and then reduce it by 1/8 of an inch. So to make up the 2 cards you need 4 pieces. I've already used 2 on here, and this is the other 2 for the second card, and this measures 5.5 by 3 3/4. In metric that will be 14 centimeters by 9 centimeters, and for the US letter size it will be 5 3/8 by 3.5. For the middle panel you need 4 pieces of basic white. I've put 2 on here, and this is the second pair, and this measures 4.5 by 3 3/4. In metric that will be 11.2 centimeters by 9 centimeters, and then for the US letter size it will be 4.5 by 3.5. For the smallest panel you need 4 pieces. I've put 2 on this card, and this is the other 2. 3.5 in the height and 3 3/4 in the width. In metric that will be 8.6 by 9 centimeters. The US letter size, I'm sorry, this is going to be a funny number because this is 3 11/16 by 3.5. It has to be a funny number because actually the height in the US letter size will be 3 13/16. So the easiest way to get this to be cut at the right angle, offer it up so that the tip of that is in line with the angle on here. Okay, and I put Tombow adhesive on the paper and allow it to dry like you see I've done here, and that helps hold your paper in place. Then on the reverse side you get the scissors, make sure this is parallel with your edge, cut from the top along that edge, Okay, now you can glue it on properly. There's a method in the madness. The reason I've done it this way is so that I can get a fairly accurate. So you want that to be parallel to the top and parallel to this edge here. And you repeat for all these panels. Because you need an 1/8 of an inch there and an 1/8 of an inch there. In fact, it's a 1/4 of an inch. So if you offer it up so that you have, say, a 1/4 of an inch down there, right, then that should be accurate. Last one. And bouncing up to stamp Happy Easter. I have put an ink pad underneath to level up the plate. Because of the height of the hinge, you need something to support it, otherwise the angle of the plate will be sloping downwards, and you want to have the plate level when you're inking it. So I'm going to stamp that directly onto the silicone mat, and the reason why I'm doing that is because if it doesn't come out, I can do it again. So the underside of the mat will pick up the ink, and that's how you do the mirror image. Make sure that you don't smudge it, so pop that into the corner, lay the cardstock down and stamp it, and the impression from the top of the stamp will also mirror the underside so that it will pick up the ink from there, so that's a more pronounced image. So that's how you do the mirror technique. I've put across this side because this is the side I want, not that side. Ink it up again and stamp again. I need one for this image here on that side. Then I can unmount this, bring in my card, and I can stamp that directly on to the cardstock. But first I want to remove the ink because I only want part of it. Make sure that's dry so it doesn't leave a shadow on your project. And I also want to stamp some flowers. And on this side, I'm going to stamp some flowers as well on the border. Bring in the stamping blends. So I'm going to colour the bunnies in Crumb Cake Petal Pink for the ears, nose, and Crumb Cake for the bunny itself. And then one will have a blue jacket and the other one will have a petal pink jacket. So the mirror image one will have a blue jacket and this one will have a petal pink one. Remember to protect your work surface I'll put a silicone mat underneath that and a grid paper on the top. So I'll speed this up. I'll have to fussy cut this, and I'll do it off camera to save time. And so you angle your scissors and leave a little white border all round, and you move the paper and not the scissors. So last thing to do is also colour this in. For the flowers I'll do it in Sweet Sorbet, Daffodil Delight and Mint Macaron. So I've already put dimensionals on the back of both my rabbits, and I'm going to put this one over here and this one over there. I hope you've enjoyed today's simple diagonal Z-fold card. You can get 2 out of an A4 sheet. It goes into an envelope quite easily. Give me a thumbs up if you like this. Share if you can, I'd really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time. Don't forget all the list of the supplies is below this video in the show more section, and you can also find the link to the blog post with all the measurements on my blog. Thanks for watching. Bye.